Pathankot charge sheet has been filed. It's a 101-page charge sheet in which JEM chief Masood Azhar has been named as the prime accused along with 3 others as co-accused, including Azhar's brother Rauf Asghar. Now, attacks didn't stop at Pathankot. Attacks continued, one in Uri, one in Kupwara, most recently in Nagrota. The question we're asking tonight on The Nation at 9, has the time come to extradite, at least try to extradite Masood Azhar and his ilk and make him pay for the bloodshed he's caused in India? We filed a story. Take a look at this.
Detailed charge sheet in the Special NIA Court Mohali against 4 accused persons who are all Pakistani nationals, including the chief of Jaish-e-Mohammed, Maulana Masood Azhar.
The National Investigation Agency formally charging Pathankot plotter, the fugitive terrorist Masood Azhar, currently in Pakistan. And as first reported by NewsX, India was quick to mount a diplomatic offensive against Masood's handler, terror state Pakistan.
We need to address as an imperative the support that terrorist organizations like the Taliban, Haqqani Network, Daesh, Al-Qaeda and its designated affiliates such as Lashkar-e-Toiba and the Jaish-e-Mohammed, which operate entirely outside the fabric of international law, draw from their shadowy supporters outside Afghanistan.
What more, India will now pressure the terror hub Pakistan to extradite Masood Azhar.
Now when the trial begins, everything will become much more clearer. So we have a very robust system of judiciary. So accordingly we will proceed, and the red corner notice will be given, and then the extradition process will begin.
NewsX has learned that a website used as mouthpiece of Jaish-e-Mohammed was designed by a company in Multan, the very same site that has been used by JEM commanders to propagate their terror agenda. With proof staring in the face of Islamabad, New Delhi has decided to mount pressure on Sharif government to extradite Masood Azhar. So will Pak end its denials now? Bureau Report, NewsX.
Professor Nalpat continues with us on debate number 2 as well. Also joining us for this one, Lieutenant General retired Vinod Bhatia, former DGMO, joins me in the studio. Vivek Kachu, former Secretary of the MEA, joins me from Delhi. Sheshadri Chari, National Executive Member of the Bharatiya Janata Party, joins us from Mumbai. Ami Yajnik, spokesperson of the Congress Party, joins us from Ahmedabad. Thank you all for being with us. Let me start with Vivek Kachu. Ambassador Kachu, today India's envoy called out Pakistan really and its set of lies, very clearly suggesting, and I'm going to quote him right now, the Lashkar-e-Toiba, Pakistan-based terror group, and the Jaish-e-Mohammed and their quote-unquote shadowy supporters, India will be acting against them. He also advised them that you sow what you reap, so only sow peace, clearly mentioning LET, Haqqani Network, Taliban. Today we have MOS Home Kiran Rijiju saying India will soon start proceedings to try and extradite Masood Azhar. Now that might be a long shot, but do you think this particular episode of India's mounting attacks diplomatically are going to achieve anything in the long term? Do you believe the government's policy of creating more pressure, putting more pressure, isolating Pakistan further is working?
First of all, I think it is good to launch judicial proceedings against terrorist groups that are operating in India in matters relating to specific cases such as the Pathankot case. But I think to hope that the Pakistan army, which is really the sponsor or in a sense the main support of these terrorist groups, will allow the terrorists to be extradited to India is not credible. It is a diplomatic offensive can be mounted, but I don't think that we should expect, or that we should reasonably expect that these people will come to India to stand trial. That will not happen. That does not mean that attempts should not be made, but yes, we should be realistic about these matters. As far as isolating Pakistan is concerned, I think the word isolating, diplomatic isolation is not absolutely accurate. You simply can't isolate a country of 200 million people. Yes, what we should do and what indeed is being done is to put as much diplomatic and other pressure internationally as is possible. That is the right term, putting pressure, not isolation, because no country, or rather very few countries, will give up their engagement with Pakistan when we
I broadly agree with you,
are
Ambassador
carrying out
Karju.
a diplomatic engagement with Pakistan.
Absolutely. And Professor Nalpat, as far as China is concerned, if we speak of the language the government is speaking, diplomatic isolation, as Ambassador Karju said, is not really possible to do it, but putting more pressure is. Even after the charge sheet, we come to understand that China, behind the scenes, has been trying to make Pakistan understand to let up on these terrorists coming into India. But overtly and on World Fora, they refuse to even call Masood Azhar a terrorist. Do you think this charge sheet, a 101-page document, is going to help further those matters?
Well, I am glad that there is a charge sheet, and if it's in the public domain, it will only help to show what is happening with Pakistan. I fully agree with Ambassador Karju that there is absolutely no way this gentleman is going to come back to India. I mean, he was given a royal ride back to Pakistan. There is no way he is going to come back to India at all. The reality situation is what is needed is a global campaign to show how Pakistan has become a global menace. Now, you have seen in Germany, for example, there is a Pakistani migrant who did this horrific act of killing so many Germans. Now, the reality is that this virus of terrorism has gone very deep inside Pakistan, and this virus is nurtured in the laboratories of the Pakistan army. So sadly, the governments, in their eagerness to be friendly with Pakistan, they have gone slow. Our governments have gone slow in exposing the horror of what's happening in Pakistan. So I do believe what Indira Gandhi did in the 1970s, for example, exposing Pakistan and its genocide, now it's important to expose Pakistan and its attempted genocide through terrorism across the world.
Sheshatri Chari, I want to come to you first. Would you agree with Professor Nalpat that perhaps in our eagerness to go slow and try and mend relations really with our neighbors, we've somehow perhaps lost the upper hand or the opportunity really to completely expose Pakistan, because they still have friends internationally. The US might speak in one tongue when they speak about India and the great market that they believe India is, but they still sell them F-16s. China refuses to call Masood Azhar a terrorist. In fact, they're building an economic corridor. The first ships have reached Gwadar port as well. Trains, I beg your pardon, not the ships.
I fully agree with what... yeah, I agree with...
Ships were also there.
Sir,
Seems to be a slight problem with your audio, Mr. Chari. I'll come back to you as soon as we rectify this. In the meantime, General Bhatia, let me come to you right now. How do you see the development of India's envoy to the UN? Clearly calling out Pakistan, not mincing his words today at all.
You see, there is no doubt that the Pakistan state policy is one of terrorism within India. Also with Afghanistan. And most of the, like it was pointed out, most of the terrorist acts have a direct or indirect connect with Pakistan. So Pakistan also has suffered on terrorism, there is no doubt about it, but they continue as a state policy with India, and India has to synergize all elements of national power and the international community to try and put pressure on Pakistan to review the terrorism policy for some time to some extent. You see, the terrorist infrastructure in Pakistan remains intact. The terrorist infrastructure is been pushed back after the surgical strike, but still intact. Pakistan has not let up on the terrorism for the last few years, and Masood Azhar is one of them. Even if you find the political level, the UFA meeting between the two prime ministers, they had agreed to give the voice samples of Lakfi, who was responsible for 2008 Mumbai attacks. And on the 16th of July, if I remember my date correctly, 15th July it was done, 16th July went back and said, no, that's not possible. So
even after Pathankot, we got the JIT here. They came to the site and then went back to Pakistan and saying it's a media creation.
Yes.
And that's the unfortunate bit, of course. I think Shahadi Chari is back with us. Mr. Chari, apologize for that audio disconnect. You're back with us. Please go ahead, sir.
yeah. Yeah, I was actually trying to make a point that supports what Ambassador Karju said, and also Professor Nalapat. But if you want to, I would like to take the point a little further. You know, diplomatic isolation does not mean that Pakistan is declared as a pariah state by all the countries in the world, including the United Nations. Incidentally, when Pakistan was made a member of the United Nations, ironically, it was only Afghanistan which opposed. No other country opposed. Even we did not. So, if you have to go to that kind of a situation, again, all the countries except China probably supports Pakistan. But remember one thing: Pakistan has always been a satellite state of one or the other country. It was when they became the member of the CENTO, it was the United States which helped them. Then UK helped them. Then they gave a base to United States in Peshawar. This was all done in order to fight against the Russians, the Russian influence in this region and the Russian influence in Pakistan, and then Russia's entry into Indian Ocean region. I think a similar situation evolved now with too close to Pakistan in the form of the China-Pakistan economic corridor. And this is one reason why China refuses to accept Masood Azhar as a terrorist, and they stand by it. But that does not mean that China is not keeping the Pakistani terror radar under its control. China is keeping a very close watch on all those Pakistani trained and Pakistan-owned mercenaries and the so-called non-state actors from spilling into their own region in Uyghur.
Right.
So they have got a huge problem in their own states where Muslim majority thing is creating an issue for them. So I think if you handle this issue of terrorism in a right manner all over the world, globally, taking the diplomatic viewpoint correctly, as Professor Nalapat said, as what Mrs. Indira Gandhi did in 1970, I think such a situation can be created. But that is only one angle of it, the diplomatic angle. As far as Pakistani army is concerned, we will have to talk to Pakistani army in the same language which they understand. We cannot use a political language to Pakistani army and a military language to Islamabad.
Okay.
So we will
I
have
just want to
deal
get the
with
Congress
these
spokesperson in
situations
on this point.
as appropriately as possible.
Okay. Ami Yajnik, would you like to come in here? As far as the government is concerned, even though MOS Home, even though our panel believes it's a very long shot that these individuals like Masood Azhar can never be extradited to India, let alone even talk about extraditing. Do you believe the government is doing enough as far as exposing Pakistan is concerned, exposing the den of terror that parts of that country have become?
Well, that there is a charge sheet itself speaks that much has been done when you file a charge sheet against these terrorists. Even I think to make an attempt to extradite them and by whatever lengthy procedure should be done, apart from what the diplomatic other procedures are done simultaneously. But one particular process is not going to help as far as Pakistan is concerned. All the esteemed panelists have pointed out about the relationship of the various superpowers or so-called superpowers, big powers, vis-a-vis Pakistan, and isolating Pakistan when it already has a very strong presence in the United Nations. It makes it stand clear. But India, when it has filed a charge sheet, I think the legal procedure, the treaty procedure, the extradition procedure should take place and not go soft at all, whether we are able to bring them back or not here for trial, but that attempt should be made to send a message that India is very serious on this.
But do you think the government is doing enough or putting enough pressure to do that actually? Because I just want to point it out to you, Professor Nalpat, as well, that the red corner notices that India initiated against these people. Yes, Ami. Yes, go ahead, Ami.
I did mention that India should not go soft at all. There cannot be softness at all as far as this particular. So I think we can't define enough, but surgical strikes are a different slot where the action is being taken. But when it comes to bringing these criminals or the terrorists here for trial, India is not doing that enough.
Okay, I want to go back to the red corner notices India initiated against these individuals, including Masood Azhar and other members of his organization, and the financial details of the Al Rahmat Trust, which is the financial arm of the Jaish-e-Mohammed as well. Pakistan has absolutely done nothing, not even lifted a finger, because we know that Masood Azhar operates in and around Bahawalpur mostly. He is in Pakistan. He was the state guest, so-called. He was put under house arrest, but he was allowed to meet people, and that's totally no arrest as well. Pakistan is not going to take any action on the red corner notices. How then do we at least expect Pakistan to reciprocate what India wants?
See, the fact of the matter is that here the situation is very frankly you have to get global opinion on your side. And even inside China, you have to basically convince the Chinese people that this so-called all-weather friend of theirs is actually a great problem even for China. In Xinjiang, for example. And from that point of view, I would like to say, Azhar, that if you hold a trial, for example, even if you have an empty chair where Masood Azhar should have sat, I mean, it's okay, provided you have a trial and you give the full evidence in public about him. The reality situation is we have to educate our public, we have to educate the international public about the horror that Pakistan has become. And we have to do this job very well. Expecting the international public to do this kind of thing for us, or expecting them to take this kind of reactive step, declare Pakistan a terror state, when we ourselves have not even declared the Pakistan army a terror army, is asking for too much. The reality is the entire information that is available on Pakistan should be put in the public domain so that the whole world will know what Pakistan is, and the governments that are helping Pakistan will have nowhere to hide.
Time to time, Professor Vivek Karju, let me come back to you. Time to time, we've seen India make a case globally. Today, we saw Syed Akbaruddin not mince his words today as well. It was a powerful speech, it was an eloquent speech, it was an erudite speech as well. But is that going to be enough, really? Ambassador Karju, can you hear me? I believe he cannot get to my voice. Let me come back to General Bhatia for the time being. By the time we should rectify the connection with Ambassador Karju here. General Bhatia, as far as Sheshadri Chari's point was concerned, that we cannot talk in the same language as we talk in Pakistani civilian government and the Pakistani military as well. I think India has been doing a bit of that on the border as well. Do you think it's effective? Is it working at all? Because after the surgical strike, as the Prime Minister called it, there was deafening silence for at least 2 to 3 weeks, I'm being told by my army contacts. Do you think the language is getting across?
You see, it has to be a judicial mix of, everything. You can't have just one way. Military and military communication is very important actually with Pakistan, because the Pakistani army, like I said earlier, drives the state policy. So we do talk to Pakistan. If you see the line of control now, when they got hit, and they got hit hard because of the retaliation of the ceasefire violation which they were carrying out, they have stopped the ceasefire violations. But if we think that they're going to stop the proxy war, which is a low-cost, high-effect war,
that's not going to happen.
That's not going to happen. But what we can do is, we can raise the cost of that war to them, and which may pay them. And if you see, there are 70-odd terrorist organizations in Pakistan, and Pakistan today is suffering on that account. It is not that they are not suffering. And if they suffer, I think they will learn. And as China is concerned, China, Pakistan economic corridor is central to the One Belt, One Road. And that corridor is again going through some terrorist-infected areas.
And China must be concerned about that. It is concerned about
major
it.
Concern.
Yes.
And there are 20,000 odd, Pakistani troops which are guarding them. But you can't guard a, you can't guard a corridor. So at some point of time, I think the Chinese are going to get hit, who are working out there, and then they're going to realize that, that terrorism is not good for them also.
Okay, quickly then, Ambassador Karju wants to come in. He's back with us and he's connected. Ambassador Karju, make your point, then I'll end with Professor Nalpat and Sheshadri Chari. I have very little time, but please go ahead, Ambassador Karju.
Just 2 points. One, I think successive governments have followed an inconsistent policy on Pakistan. Mr. Modi himself wavered, but now, after Pathankot and after all the shenanigans which the Pakistanis did, I think there is a policy which is being put in place which is proactive. I only hope that all these are not unconnected tactical steps. And the need is to show stamina and continue.
All right, again, we seem to be losing that connection there. Sheshadri Chari, let's give you the last word, then I'll come back to Professor Nalpat if I can. Go ahead, Sheshadri Chari.
Yeah. No, I think if you make this point, Madam Yagnik very rightly pointed out that we should not give out a signal that we are a soft state. I think that's a very valid point. If you go through the procedures that have been taken place in the last 10 years and compare that to what has happened since 2014, of course, Ambassador Karju has a viewpoint that we have been not very consistent on this policy. But actually the Modi government was very consistent on these policies. Earlier governments have also tried to talk to Pakistan and dissuade the political establishment from depending too much on the establishment. But we should not forget the reality. Pakistan is not just a political entity.
Experiencing a lot of trouble today with the satellite connect. So let me just end with Professor Nalpat. I'll give you the last word, sir, 30 seconds or less. Today's speech, is it part of a strategic tactical move, or are they disconnected as the apprehension goes?
Well, it's, you know, this kind of speech is there, but frankly, Athar, I've long felt that in the United Nations, India should just frankly ignore Pakistan. In the United States, definitely talk about Pakistan. In the UK, in China, talk about Pakistan. But so far the UN is concerned, it's my view, don't bring Pakistan up, because that's what the Pakistanis want you to do.
All right.
They want you to bring their issue into the UN, then they want to reply to you, and then it becomes a slanging match.
Okay.
So my view is the United Nations is one forum which has no role whatsoever in India-Pakistan issues, and I think we should just keep that P word out of the UN.
It's to Pakistan's benefit, you're saying it goes all the time. All right. Unfortunately, we had some technical issues with Mr. Chari and Ambassador Karju today. I'm completely out of time. Thank you, Ami Yajnik, Ambassador Karju, Professor Nalpat, General Bhatia, and Sheshadri Chari for joining us and giving us time.